This is my grandfather.
Right.
This is his younger brother.
Okay.
This is his eldest son. This is my bua.
This is his son. He looks like the same age.
Yeah, this is my bua.
Yeah.
And this is my father.
Upon Queen Elizabeth II's demise yesterday, there's a family in Jalandhar which looked back with nostalgia on a long and precious legacy of serving for the royal family and being commissioned with the British forces. We are at the home of Sandeep Singh, a resident of Jalandhar, whose various generations, at least 3 generations that he is known of, and probably it goes back longer, whose at least 3 or 4 generations served with the British. It started with his great-grandfather, Sardar Major Honorary Captain Narayan Singh, who served as an orderly officer with King Edward VIII. His grandfather, Lieutenant General Vikram Singh, rose high up on the ranks of the Indian Army and died in the tragic copter crash which happened in Poonch on 22nd November 1953. So this 1963. There's this rich legacy that the family has. Lieutenant General Vikram Singh himself was commissioned as a second lieutenant at Sandhurst in Britain, and he was commissioned by King George V. So with the Queen's demise last evening, all these memories came flooding back to the family. We talked to Sandeep Singh about what he feels about it and what he remembers, what are the memorabilia and the insignia he has left from his time with the British Royal Forces and serving at the Buckingham Palace.
My great-grandfather served in the Buckingham Palace with King Edward VIII as his officer orderly from 1932 to 1935, and I have heard stories about my grandfather, and I've seen pictures also. I had them actually, but they got destroyed during the 80s floods, of my great-grandfather saluting the royal family with King Edward VIII and Margaret and Queen Elizabeth walking with him, but unfortunately they got destroyed. And when my great-grandfather was serving the British Army, even my grandfather joined the British Army. He commissioned from Sandhurst as a second lieutenant to the British Army, and then later on he came to Indian Army in 1952 after independence. So listening about, hearing about Queen Elizabeth's death, I went back in memory where my father used to tell me stories about how my great-grandfather, served in the Buckingham Palace and served with the royal family, and some very personal, intimate stories.
When you heard first about, when the news broke that the Queen had died, what was your first reaction to it? Did all the family memories came?
My first reaction was the photograph which I used to have of the royal family walking down with all the 4 officers orderlies saluting them. That was the first thing that came to my mind.
So until the 1980s, you had the photograph of your grandfather.
Yes.
He's saluting the 15-year-old at that time. How old was Elizabeth?
She must be 15, 16. So she was 26 in 52. So
yes.
In 32, she must be 10 years, 15, 16 years.
Yes.